Hello everyone, this is Jasmine and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we will learn how to use repository in ASP.NET Core MVC app using Entity Framework. This is continuation of my video, so if you have not seen my previous videos, I would suggest you to first go through it. I have explained how to create web application and we are going to create repository in that web application. Now first we need to understand what is a repository. It makes our complex application easy to understand by adding a layer of abstraction between data access layer and the business logic, that is a controller. It isolates our application from changes in the data store and facilitates unit testing. This promotes a loosely coupled approach to access your data from the database and saves us from writing the same queries across multiple controllers. How is it achieved? Now, we can declare all the functions that are necessary for CRUD operations in interface. Then we create a repository class. So this repository class will implement our interface, and we will declare all the functions in this class. This class is basically used to connect to the database. And based on our requirement, we use the required repository and inject it to our controller. Now this is how our repository pattern is going to look. This is the DB context that is going to speak to the database. Here our repository interface, and the repository class will implement the repository interface, and the repository class is going to speak to the controller. So our controllers are not going to be connected directly to the database. There will be a layer of repository class that's going to do that work. Let's do it. Let's see this in action. Here I'm using my same project which we used to create the ASP.NET Core web app. Here we will create a folder, interfaces. This is a good way to isolate the things. Create a folder for interfaces, create a folder for repositories, and place all those files in those folders. Let's create a file, an interface with the name user repo. It is a convention in C# to have your interface's name start with the letter I as a prefix. Since this repository is going to be responsible for the user model, it is being named as user repo. Let's write the methods for it. Task user, create user. So if you have gone through my previous videos, we have created all these classes in the controller. Now I'm just writing the definition of these functions in this interface. Users, user, task. We need IEnumerable to get the list of users from the database. We can give it a name, get all users. Then task user. Here we need get one user ID from the database. Then there is update user, task users, update user, for which we need to pass the entire user details of only one user, I mean. Then there is task delete users, for which we just need to pass the user ID. Now we need to create the repository. So let's create a folder with the name repository. And we need to add a class. Let's name it user repository. So this will implement our interface user repo. Here we will declare our user context. We will make it private read only. Then we have to inject it. So we can do it by using the constructor. So we create the constructor and we inject our user context. Now let's write the function declarations. So for the create user, context dot users add user, then we need to save it, save changes, and in the last return it. I missed a sync in it, so it is us and await changes. Here also we need to write async. Now delete user, here also async, task user, delete user, then where user is equal to await context dot users dot find async. First we need to check in the database whether it exists. First we need to find it. Once it's done, then we can delete it. Remove users, then await context dot return user. Here we need to get all the users. This is just a single statement. Return await context dot users dot to list. Get users by ID. So return await context dot users first or default. Now last is the update user. Context dot update users await dot save changes. Await context dot save changes and then return user. Now to allow repository injection into our controllers, we need to add service in the program file. So let's go to the program file. Here we need to add the services, add scoped. So basically this is to tell the system that this interface belongs to this repository. User repository. Now let's update our controller. We have to inject our repository into user controller. Earlier data context was injected. Now we need to remove that code and we need to add the repository. So let's comment this now and declare our interface read only user repo. So our constructor here we are going to pass user repo. Now in index we have to modify this, return await user dot get all users. Details get user by ID, pass the ID. Now here instead of this we need to write users dot create user, pass the user to it. Here we don't need this code since we are writing save changes already in our repository. So let's remove this. Now let's go to the edit. Here also users dot get user by ID. Then the post method. We don't need this, so we can just comment it. Here we can remove the try catch completely and let's write code for it. If ID is not equal to user.id, By mistake I removed the modal state. We need to check the modal state is valid. The inside code is not required, which we can remove it. Await update user. So this will update the user. Next is the delete. Here also await user. So this delete is the get method. So here we just need to get the user ID. Get user by ID. Okay, here it's not null, so we can remove this. And then last is our delete. Delete user by ID. This question mark is just to say that if it's null. Since when we declared these functions, we have not added the null check, so I'm removing it from here. We don't need this code over here. We have done already. We have added this code in our repository. So this is how, these are the changes which we need to make in our controller. Now let's run our project and see. So let's go to the users. Let's create a new record. MVC. Create. So our code is working. We can create a record. Now let's edit the record and see. Generally, when we create any account, we save the password, but on editing we don't get the password. So because of the security reasons, it is not displaying over. And in general, we should never display the password like this. It's my mistake that I did it. Details. Here is the details. Back to the list, and let's delete the record. So our repository code is working properly. So this is the part 4 of my video. I hope you like my video. If you like my video, kindly like and subscribe to my channel. And thanks for watching.